Hey everybody, big news. The hummingbirds have returned to northern Michigan, and the people around here absolutely celebrate their return. We had so many people coming in saying, I saw my first hummingbird, I need to get plants, I want to feed them, I want them to be hanging out in my yard, what do I need? So today I'm going to go over some of the basically best hummingbird magnets that we've seen in our area. I'm going to talk about both perennials and annuals because both play an important role both in feeding the birds but also in our enjoyment of them. So I'll start with the perennials. Perennials are great because they do come back year after year, and that's important to the hummingbirds because they will go back to the same spot that they found food in the past, and you'll see them kind of checking out wherever that plant was that they loved last year. They'll keep looking to see, has it started flowering yet? Has it started flowering yet? So perennials are great for that because the plants generally don't move unless we move them. So I have a couple of perennials that are our go-tos. There's a long list that the hummingbirds like, but there's a couple of them that they absolutely love. And the most commonly known one is giant hyssop or anise hyssop. And it also has one of those names that's really hard to pronounce, or everybody pronounces differently. I've heard it pronounced Agastache, 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 Agastache. I've heard people pronounce it so many different ways. Its more common name is hummingbird mint. And of course it gets the name because the hummingbirds are all over it. So are the bees and other pollinators. So it's a great plant to have in the garden. It has beautiful blue flowers. Only downfall is that in our area, it's not the most hardy plant. So it does come back year after year, but sometimes it's short-lived. So a lot of times people say, plant 3 or 5 of them and then expect to every couple of years have to replace one. Just the nature of our climate, I guess. Or maybe, I don't know if it's one of those plants that does that naturally as well, but that's definitely what we find in our area. But there are some more hardy plants. So like Salvia and Veronica, I'm gonna group those because they have some similar characteristics. One being that the hummingbirds love them. Number 2 is that their colors are similar. So they tend to be most commonly blue or purple, but then they also come in pink and white. And they are both plants where some of the newer cultivars, if you shear them back after they're done flowering, so you get a good flush of flowers, then you just trim them back. Like you just turn them back into a little tidy mound again. They usually will rebloom. So you get that really nice, and it's usually a nice full rebloom. If you don't trim them back, they rebloom, but it's a little more sporadic and it's not quite as tidy looking. So we always encourage people, just give them a quick shear and you don't have to think about it. Just go through and just give them like a little haircut and they usually bounce back. So there's some really nice varieties of that. I have some up here too. So like this blue one here, this is a Salvia right there. That's one of the proven winners varieties. And then I do have a Veronica that's in bloom as well. So that's this pink one right here. And so you can see, it gets this kind of nice stalk of flower. This is a beautiful pink color as well. So we always like that one. Another plant that they're really fond of are hostas. And so hostas, usually we think of them for their really nice leaf shapes and how they do really well in shade, but they also get these beautiful white or ivory flowers, and the hummingbirds will hang out by those. They'll keep going back to them. And the nice thing about that is in shade, so a lot of times we'll have like our little seating areas in a shaded spot, so those hostas are around there, so that kind of gives us an option for a shadier spot to put those in. Another great one for shade is the Fuchsia, so that's also known as the corbel. So here's one right here that has this beautiful kind of red leaf. This one has a black leaf. I think I have one over here. Yeah, this one has a greenish leaf as well. And these I picked just because they're flowering. So these have more of the pink flowers. This one's a little bit more of an ivory with a little bit of pink cast to it. There are some that are a little more ivory or yellow colored. They're beautiful when they flower, but they're really known for their foliage. Hummingbirds love those flowers though. So if you look, there are several varieties that are known as reblooming Fuchsias. So if you get one that reblooms, those hummingbirds are going to be able to come back to that plant a little bit more. So that's a great one to have. And those are usually really easy. And there's varieties for sun and for shade in those. So you'll want to check the tags so that you make sure and put it in the spot that it's going to grow the best. So that's what I have for perennials. Like I said, there's lots more. I'll put a full list, and I mean, it's a long list of perennials that you can put in there. But I'll tell you, I have a couple of them that are blooming right now that I brought in, so I should show you these. So like this is a columbine. So you can see, I always love the flowers on these columbines. This one is a little bit more of the North American native. It's the Canadiensis, so it's native to far northern parts of the US. And this one here is a penstemon. Right? Yes, penstemon. It's the Midnight Masquerade. There are several different kinds, but this one is especially nice because it has that dark purple foliage, and I love these lavender flowers on it. And these flowers have been in bloom, gosh, I know they were there May 1st. I think when they came in, it was what, April 20th or something like that. So we're almost getting a month of blooms on these, which is very, very nice to have that nice long bloom on a perennial like that. So it's a really good one. Love that foliage on it. So now I want to talk about annuals, and annuals play a little bit different role, I think, because annuals keep flowering and they keep blooming. So they kind of are our continuous feeders. They're also plants that do really well in containers, so we can have them on our decks or on our porches or by our front doors or by our windows, all places that we can sit and enjoy the hummingbirds and watch them a little bit more. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to save probably the biggest hummingbird magnet for last, and I'll just show you a couple of the ones that are definitely go-tos. The one that I don't know too much about, I'll start with that one. This is this one here, and I just think it's very cool. So I've heard that they like fuchsias. I don't really have a lot of shady spots, so I haven't done fuchsias, but this is the Gardenmeister fuchsia. Gets really big, has these great kind of coral colored trumpet flowers. Very interesting plant, and I hear that the hummingbirds like this one, so I just included it because it's new to me, and so I get excited about new stuff, so I wanted to put that in there. But I really haven't watched hummingbirds on this one yet, so let me know if you've had this one, if the hummingbirds were all over it. I do want to know about that. And then another one, they are constantly going to the Lantana. That's one of those, you know, they love just going into each one of these little flower buds and just getting that nectar or that whatever it is they're going for. I'm sure it's nectar. And I wanted to show you, so most of your Lantana, the flowers start out kind of a yellow or a golden color. And then, so the yellow one stays yellow, but then the orange ones and the red ones, as they age, will get their color. So you'll usually see a little bit of that yellow or gold in the center until the flower is completely mature. This one here is the new passion fruit Lantana, and that's a brand new color. It's really unusual, and it's also one of the first true basket varieties. So it fills out a basket really, really nicely. It's known for trailing a little bit more than some of the others. That said, we have the Bandolista series, which is a very vigorous variety. That one looks great in containers as well. Every single one I think we had planted up has sold over this weekend. So it's a fast mover. Other one that, honestly, put some salvia, the annual salvias. They bloom all the time, and the hummingbirds hang out with them all the time. This one here is the rockin' fuchsia, but pretty much any of the salvias, whether it's, you know, kind of got the tighter flowers or the wider flowers or, you know, all these different types, I've been seeing the hummingbirds all over those. They just keep visiting each one of the flowers and just keep, you know, taking it in. They absolutely love it. But if there's one plant that you want to have in your garden for hummingbirds, it's going to be Cuphea. They go crazy for it. It is the first plant they'll go to. They always check it. They will go from one Cuphea to the next. They'll check out the other ones a little bit, and they always end up back on the Cuphea. So this one here is a Cuphea called Vermillionaire, and it's more of an orange one. This one I'm showing you because it is one of the more vigorous varieties, has a real robust kind of growth to it compared to some of the other ones. All the other ones get decent size, but this one does kind of become a bit of a shrub, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Let me move some of these plants. I'm going to show you just what I mean. So when you're looking at this Cuphea, this is a nice size. It is going to get much bigger. It's going to start kind of hanging over the edge a little bit. Great trailing plant. This is one Cuphea planted at the same time as this one right here. So take a look at this. I mean, it's amazing. And we learned this last year. We did a little experiment. We planted a Cuphea in one of the aqua pots. And sorry, I can't really see you over there because this Cuphea is so big. And that thing just got huge, like 3 feet across, 3 feet tall. If you give a Cuphea enough room and you give it enough water, it will just keep going and going. And Cuphea is drought tolerant, so you can skip waterings, but if you want it to get big and full and robust, just keep giving it lots of space. So give it a nice big pot and give it lots of water. And this thing, it's amazing. And it is a favorite for hummingbirds, but Vermillionaire isn't the only one. There's some other ones. I'm going to take you over there and I'll show you what the other ones look like and how they compare to each other. So here's a closer look at the Vermillionaire. You can see that beautiful orange tubular flower. And a lot of the hummingbird favorites are going to have that tubular flower because other pollinators have a hard time getting in there. And so that means the hummingbirds get all that nectar to themselves. And then, so that's Vermillionaire. This one here is one called Honeybells. And so it has a little bit more of a pink orange type of color to it. Similar growth habit. It's not quite as vigorous, but it does get really good kind of coverage, lots of branching, fills out really, really nice. You'll notice it starts to get almost like, this is a better example right here. See how it gets this little kind of fan shape or a little pointed arrow type of shape, and that'll just get wider and fuller as you go. So that's Honeybells. Over here is Sugarbells. So this is the white version, and we have found that the hummingbirds love every one of these equally. In fact, my sister said on her deck they would start with Sugarbells and then they go around to all the other ones. And then There's also one called Hummingbird Lunch. I think we're out of that one. But then there's this variety here, which is called, it's from the Sweet Talk series. So I think this is like Lavender Splash. There's also a red and a pink. So a little bit different flower on this. The leaf is a little bit more, I'm going to say fuzzy. So just a totally different type of plant. So that's that color. Let me see. I think I have, here's a red one over here. Oh, red and pink. So that's the red one. And like I said, this is a brand new one. I think this one is available from seed as well. And then this is the deep pink, I think it's called. So very fun plants, definitely ones to consider. So if you're like me, you probably grew up with those red and yellow hummingbird feeders. You fill them with that beautiful red Kool-Aid colored water and the hummingbirds come rushing in and it's fun to watch. But it is important that if you have one of those that you're cleaning them regularly, so that you need to change that water out very frequently. I think they say like every 48 hours or something like that, more frequently if the temperature's higher, because that sugar water can harbor disease and get moldy or whatever it does. I'm not an expert on what happens to sugar water. I would instead recommend planting some of these and water the plants instead. The plants will provide the food for the hummingbirds. You get to enjoy the flowers, they get to enjoy the flowers. Everybody wins, and it's a beautiful way to enjoy your garden and have those hummingbirds hang out with you a little bit more.